Well,
Welcome back to Bells and Bells. I'm Cedric D. That's my main man, Joey. We're missing somebody tonight, there, Joe.
yep. Apparently, I don't know. Must have had something better to do. That old man up.
I know, but Manable will be back with us next week for our monthly free for all. But we are very happy to have our good friend of the show, Mr. Rusty Miller, join us tonight. Rusty, good evening to you, sir.
Howdy, everybody. How are you?
Doing good, brother. Doing good, man. And you come tonight, and we're talking. We're doing our top 10 WWF / WWE champions. We're doing our favorites. We're going to count down from 10 to 1. If you are watching, please join us in the comments. Go through from 10 to 1. Make sure you put in your what your favorites is, right, Joe?
Yep. And just to clarify, we are not going to be including WWE Universal Champions. We are not going to be including WWE World Champions that were represented by the big gold belt. We're not talking about those. You could debate all day. Are they pretty much WWE champions? Yes. But are they part of that title's lineage? No. So we are strictly talking about the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship started by Buddy Rogers up until the black belt with the big W on
it. Exactly. So with that said, gentlemen, this is what we do on Bells and Belts. We start the bell, and we're off and running with this freaking show. I do want to start off by showcasing some of the belts that we've had from the 60s to now. And Rusty, which one of these like jump off at you when we talk about WWF?
A lot of them have different meaning for me. You know, the Pedro belt I used to own at one time. That's the top middle one. I had that in my stuff at one point, and then I've sold it a couple of times for other collectors since then. But the big green, that was one of the belts that drew me to wanting belts. And if for anybody who doesn't know this, you know, the story I heard is that Hogan gave that belt to his brother-in-law, Linda's brother, at some juncture. So wherever that belt may be, you know, who knows? But I mean, that would fetch a pretty penny because that's got Backlund and Hogan and the Iron Sheik. I mean, the only guys that held it. You know, and then of course the 85, that belt. If you watched War to Settle the Score when Hogan came out, you know, and he walks up to Mr. T, he's got the 84 on, and it's coming off the leather. And then at WrestleMania, when he comes out, makes the turn to come toward the camera, he's got the 85. And then at some point later in the year, you know, they got the Hogan 86. You know, that's the known for being the Andre belt. That looks like an FWF version right there.
Yeah. It is. My bad.
That's okay. But that's you know, that's the belt he wore against Andre, which, you know, is arguably one of the biggest matches of all time. The Winged Eagle, of course. As much of a fan of the Winged Eagle as I am now, the night it debuted, February 5th of 88, I did not like that he came out with a different belt because the promo he cut, he had the 86 on, you know, and he did the brother, you know.
I noticed that as well, bro. Yeah.
I noticed it. Well, I was at a soccer game, and so I didn't see it until later. And even at the soccer game I was at, there's probably 3,000 people at the game, but people had the little TVs back then, and they're like, Hogan lost, and you could hear it going through the crowd. And I'm like, what? And I didn't think that was going to happen, but I also knew even back then, because Alex Marvez used to have a thing in the Miami Herald. I knew Hogan's wife was pregnant. So I figured when he lost, he was going to be off for the birth of Brooke, which that was the case. And so, you know, all the belts, you know, have a different meaning. The Big Eagle, you know, that was the start of the Attitude stuff with Steve Austin. You know, the Undisputed belt, April 1st of 2000. I think that's 2002. Yeah, 2002 when Ric Flair takes the Big Eagle and the Big Gold and gives that to Triple H. The spinner. The scratch logo belt that The Rock debuted is actually a favorite of mine. I like that one because it says champion big.
Yeah.
And the logo is still there. And I think that they should still do that belt that way. But I don't like how it says World Heavyweight Champion in little letters on the new logo. But I kind of dig those versions. So it's each belt when I look, it has different meaning, and for me anyway.
Yeah, and Joe, you off air, you was telling me you like the one in the top left corner.
Yeah, I like the Bruno Sammartino one in that blue suede kind of or velvet, however you want to, whatever it is. I like the way that belt looks. And of course, it's Bruno Sammartino. It's like so that's the nostalgia of that. Even though it's kind of before my time, but at the same time, like going back and watching it. Yeah, I think we'll go into it more in our top tens. But yeah, that's a special championship. If you're, although I know Bruno had several. So, but amongst his two incredible reigns as champion,
exactly. I'm sure we'll get into Bruno some more.
We're
gonna go ahead and get this top 10 started. We're gonna start with our number 10. If you have a number 10, make sure you put it in the comments. Put 10 in the wrestler's name. And Joey, we're gonna get started with you.
We're gonna start with me. All right. Well, some people might get on to me for my placing on this, but just be happy he made my top 10 and all. To me, my number 10 favorite WWE champion is Triple H.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into how many million times somebody held a championship belt, but I think I'm a big fan of a strong heel champion, and Triple H always did that well in my opinion. Kind of came out during that on the edge of that Attitude Era, kind of right after Austin and The Rock kind of got their a little bit of time on top and everything. But yeah, Triple H had the look. He had you can say what you want about not having a lot of variety in his matches and stuff like that, but he was solid, and that's why I always think he belongs on there for me.
He was the best heel in the business for that time period.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I especially with the WWF WWE product, a lot of what they did was playing the hits, because a lot of the stuff they were doing was repetitive. A lot of stuff wasn't freaking innovative. They have a moveset that they do every single match. It just depends on what part of the match that they bring it out in.
But he put you got to respect it. He put a lot of time and effort into his look and the whole package. Once he put together his entrance, it's iconic. And so like everything about him, spelled top guy. So
exactly. He was believable as a top guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Always fun to watch get beat up too.
Definitely.
I kind of had Triple H. Same thing. I kind of had Triple H because when he came out, when he defended the title at the Royal Rumble against Foley, that match made him. That was the one that I think put him over the edge as to be the guy. He to win over that crowd in New York and to be a heel there, that's a big statement. And for him to cement it there against Foley and Foley's home area. I mean, doesn't get any bigger than that. And then, the race was on for a while, and we always go, you always hear the whole, but about Steph, he was big before Stephanie. I think so. And so, that's got nothing to do with it. And, but to win the crowd over at the Royal Rumble, to have the matches that he had, to be at that time the only heel champion to walk out of WrestleMania that year.
I was going to touch on that. Definitely. Yeah. Exactly.
So, that speaks a lot to what he was.
Nobody looked like the Big Eagle was made for them more than Triple H.
I think so too.
That belt just fit him. You know how some belts just fit somebody, like the classic IC fit Kurt Hennig's waist, like it just was belonged there. Like the Big Eagle to me looked like, Triple H actually wore it around his waist.
Right.
Not many other people were doing that. And it just looked like it was made for him.
Definitely. I have Triple H on my list, but I got him a little higher. At number 10, I got JBL. I really dug the wrestling god gimmick that he had. Had the folks surrounding him. The cabinet, if I'm not mistaken, that's what they called it. Walked into WrestleMania as the champion to do the honors for Cena. I really liked him as champion, and I got him at my number 10. So So that's where I got him. All right. Don't forget, guys. All you out there watching, we want you to count down with us. So if you have a number 10, go ahead and drop it in there. But we're gonna go ahead and move to number 9, and my number 9 was Triple H. So I had him one higher than you guys, but all for the same reason that you all mentioned. I definitely want to highlight the significance of his WWF title runs was that reign he had in 2000, especially leaving WrestleMania, a heel champ walking in and walking out as champion as a heel.
Yeah,
definitely what wasn't done up until that point. All right, Joe.
Caleb, I saw you in the audience, Caleb C. You better get your number 10 up there now. Come on. All right. And your number 9. Come on now. All right. I guess I will go ahead and do my number 9. A guy I think was one of the greatest professional wrestlers there ever has been, and PWI seems to agree. I'm going to go with Bob Backlund.
Okay.
One of the greatest mat technicians there ever was. I'm sorry, his second title reign was what it was. But he and Bret Hart, but going with that, he and Bret Hart had a great feud.
Oh, yeah.
Like talking about, him in the more modern era, it just so happened he had to go out there and put over Kevin Nash. But that's, which is kind of like after that incredible work with Bret Hart in that incredible match and finish and everything. But yeah, his first reign was incredible. And he it's unfortunate, it's kind of like Bret coming after Hogan. He had to follow Bruno kind of as the top baby face, and it's hard to do, but he did it to the best of his ability.
Well, they took down Superstar Billy Graham for that belt.
Right. Yeah.
And then to a lot of the old school guys back then, they wanted a legit guy to be the champion. And Vern had that mentality. Vince Sr. seemed to have a little bit of that. Obviously, the NWA with Lou had that. Because, if you could knock off the champion, but they couldn't take the belt off. And, if you've ever met Bob and ever talked to him and ever talked to people that worked with him, Bob is the nicest guy in the world.
He's a funny guy.
Oh, he's hilarious, hysterical. And the best part of it is like when you read about him and you listen to how these guys were talking about how he would work out like crazy before the matches would even start.
Yeah.
And so
go out there and go 60 minutes.
So he was incredible. And they said he was deceptively strong. And if you watch some of the lifts that he does with some of them guys back then,
you
can tell. He was
kind of Kurt Angle before Kurt Angle was Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
In a sense,
I don't even know if Kurt Angle could have taken it.
But you know what I mean? Like he was that type of guy. He was entertaining. That's a fact. But like he made every bit of the Olympics, but like you said, he was such a incredible freak athlete. Like it's hard to appreciate.
Very unassuming. Like to look at him, you go, what?
Yeah.
And then to realize who he is. Just like if you've ever met Dan Severn,
yes,
he's the nicest guy in the world. You would never think this guy's one of the toughest guys on the planet.
No, he's such a I personally booked Dan Severn for a show before and had him on, and he was incredible to have around. Like if he's the type of guy too, if he'll shut up, he'll talk. Like and he'll teach you something. Incredible.
Nice. All right, Rusty. We're at you with number 9.
I had Backlund also.
Dang, we're fine.
I can remember my back in the day. I grew up in Florida.
Are you on a certain wage limit today? Oh my God!
Well, dude, we think the same when it comes to wrestling. Well, somewhat.
Yeah.
But like I grew up in Florida.
I love it. Hey, okay. I was saying, did you catch any of his stuff in Florida?
I did, but after we got cable. I did not understand the concept because we didn't buy the magazines when I was a kid. My dad watched wrestling. We grew up on Eddie Graham and Dusty and all that.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the concept of how is Paul Orndorff fighting for the national heavyweight title over here, and then 2 months later he's in the WWF. I couldn't get that. Yeah. I didn't know that there was more. And once I got old enough and could afford the magazines, then I started reading, and then I couldn't stop. Right. And I was reading, and that's how I learned about Thesz and Bachman and Hackenschmidt and all them guys. So, the first time we got cable, to see like Santana. Tito Santana was the Intercontinental Champion at the time. Actually, I think in '82 that would have been Morocco or Pedro.
Right.
But Santana was later on. But like all of a sudden, these guys that I saw on TBS are now over here, and I'm like, well, how is Bob Backlund the world champion when Ric Flair's the world champion?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of odd. But then you watch Backlund and you just watch how good he was.
Yeah.
You know, my big memory is June 28th, 1982. Snuka on top of Backlund off the cage. And actually, I think that might have been. Yeah, I think that is it.
Snuka missed, didn't he?
Yeah. And then Backlund just kind of rolled out of the cage while Snuka laid there. You know, because he was hurt. And, you know, so to watch all that, because we'd never seen, all we knew it as was the Madison Square Garden Network. So my dad got us into it because the crowds were just insane. So we started watching, and I'm like, okay, so this is a new thing. And then the Intercontinental Champion, and then the Tag Team Champions, and Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch and the Briscoes were fighting them. And, you know, so I'm like, but how are the Briscoes fighting them when they're, you know, so it took a while for it to sink in.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Nobody's dropping their numbers in the top 10 picks in there. So all right. So
I'm seeing some people are watching, and I saw a comment about Triple H being a great champion. Okay. From Nisha.
Yeah, I saw that too. Well, yeah, we want to know what y'all top 10 as well. Y'all keep following along with it. If you put them in the comments, we'll definitely reach out to that. We're gonna go into number 8 there, Joe.
All right,
we'll keep it rolling.
My number 8. This is probably where you never know. Me and Rusty might split now. My number 8 is going to be. I'm gonna mention Yokozuna.
Okay.
Wait, at number 8, I got Yokozuna.
Nice.
I got big Rodney Anoa'i.
Okay.
No, just because I thought he was an incredible antagonist for everything he was at the time, and good Lord, the guy was athletic and could move for for his size and stature. And I always, but could drop a leg on Bret Hart, and Bret said it felt like a pillow hit him. Said he was on par with Andre and how good he was in the ring. And I think we talked about this before on another thing, but yeah, I'm going to give Yokozuna his props because I think he was great for the time he was champion. I'm sorry that his health kind of went south, and that was kind of the end of Yoko on top. But you know, he was such a strong champion, they decided against putting the title on Lex Luger at the time. And I thought every time he and Bret got in the ring, they really did some good things.
Like if you watch back even then, Lex wouldn't have worked as champion. It would not have worked. Yeah.
But regardless, he was over at a time, and there you go. Like for Yokozuna, there you go. Just incredible at the time. Played to that whole foreign heel thing, but he was the first.
Samoan playing the Asian. I love it, man.
Yeah, we all bought it. We didn't care. We bought he was the Japanese heel, like Monster Heel with Mr. Fuji in the corner, and later Jim Cornette too. But just again, did some great stuff. Headlined a lot of shows, and again, matches with Bret Hart are what sold me on him.
I saw him wrestle the Undertaker in Sunrise, Florida. Yeah. The match went to it was like almost midnight before they went on. They were out there for like a minute and a half, and then the lights went off.
Oh, wow.
They were so mad. I'm like, we waited for the champion all night, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And not their fault. I mean, obviously somebody went long.
Yeah. But they were mad.
Oh, yeah. I was not happy. Especially because I had to get up at 5 a.m. to go to work.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. All right, Rusty, you got to go ahead and hit us with your number 8.
All right. He lifts big-time weights. He's barbell plates. He's sweeter than a German chocolate cake. Superstar Billy Graham, number 8.
Hey!
One of the best heel champions. Wow.
Hey,
I mean, that was I think Vince Sr.'s first time wanting to have a heel champion. And as we all know, it's much more fun to have the heel champion and all the baby faces chasing him.
I enjoyed Gary Michael Capetta's introduction of him with the Grand Wizard of Wrestling.
Yes, that's a good endeavor. I like that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'll talk more about him later too, because he's on. I'm not going to say he's on my list too. But yeah, get into some more of that later. But yeah, God knows, how many? I mean, let's go ahead and say it. You can start listing off the wrestlers he inspired who pretty much stole his gimmick. Jesse Ventura, Hulk Hogan, Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. The names could keep going. Yeah. He's one of the all-time greats.
He was. He would have been Hogan had it been a few years later. He would have been Hogan.
Yeah.
Poor
guy was broken by that
Bruno
time.
At that time, they were still all about Bruno, and and in Backlund, they wanted Vince Senior like that baby face.
Yeah.
But my opinion, still I like because it was always fun to watch the good guy finally win.
Yeah.
But I used to hate that Ric Flair would escape every time.
Yeah.
But now, knowing what we know and being around it and being in it, you see the beauty of like, oh, that was so sweet.
Just like Superstar Graham's the only real heel to break through in a babyface territory and have a run with the belt, not a short
run. Had a nice run at that. Yeah. He had a nice run.
What, over 200 days?
Yeah. A year.
Mm-hmm. Close to it. Yeah, absolutely. So
it was April to February, I think.
Who else? Name another heel during the early era of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation got a run like that.
No, none.
It's a babyface territory. So
they were Intercontinental Champion, Morocco, Patera,
and perennial challengers headlining the big shows. Yeah,
exactly. The other heel champions before them, they were transitional champions to the next guy. So Superstar definitely broke the mold with that one. With my number 8, I'm going a little more recent. Not going to spend a lot of time with it, but I'm going to put the head of the table, Roman Reigns, in here. I really try not to. I really try not to bring a lot of the more current stuff into my top 10s, but his reign is getting ready to stand out. They're ready to stand out there among the good ones. I know we're not talking about the Universal, but being it's combined, and the level of dominance that he has right now with that championship. That's why I got him in my top end.
Well, when he walks into WrestleMania, he'll be at a year with the actual WWE Championship, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at all.
And that's his current reign. He's had it before, so he's, But yeah, you're right. So you are officially acknowledging him. That's what you're telling me.
I'm acknowledging him at number 8 in my top 10 tonight. I am. But there's definitely 7 more folks ahead of him, which we'll get to momentarily. Ben Walker, I see you're in here. Ben, good evening to you, good sir.
Hey,
we can ready to start.
And you too,
start number 7. Ben, you want to go and catch up with your top 10 WWE, WWF champions? Well, we definitely appreciate that. Moving on to number 7, Joseph.
All right, my number 7 is the only Olympic gold medalist. I've got to go with Kurt Angle. I'm going to say it. The middle W in WWE says wrestling. And in an era where nobody really was a great wrestler, Kurt Angle was a great wrestler. And there you go. Put him up. There you go.
He's the nicest guy, too. And I mean, as legit as it gets, an Olympic gold medalist.
In an era where they didn't exist.
Yeah. It's, I mean, just what can you say? And, if you remember when he crashed through the table with Triple H and was knocked cold at SummerSlam that year, what was that, 99 or 2? Was that 2000?
Yeah, I think
it was 2000. He went through the table, the pedigree, and, he came back out and did everything. I'm like, he was so new. He shouldn't have been able to do that yet. It wasn't.
He was WWF champion a year in the business, year on the main roster anyway.
Right.
I should say he had about a year in developmental before, but
Dave Milliken worked with a lot of those guys in Memphis, and he told me Kurt picked it up so fast. He's like, they were amazed at how fast he picked it up.
Yep. I'm from Memphis, and I remember a lot of that, like and a lot of the guys I worked with talking about him, and just the very fact that he's such a freak athlete, a great athlete. Mm-hmm. to be that entertaining too, to fit the mold of a professional wrestler that well, to come from his background. Really, nobody else ever did it. So,
not to that extent.
Yeah.
Not to that extent.
Got to give him his props.
A generational talent, to say the least, when y'all say.
Yeah.
Well, he was, like you said, he was a freak athlete until you meet my number 7.
All right, go ahead.
Go for
Brock Lesnar.
Lead into it.
Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
You talk about a freak athlete. This guy.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Kurt both brought legitimacy to wrestling that it hadn't seen in a lot of years.
Yep.
And the whole WrestleMania 19 messed up shooting star press.
Yeah.
I kind of, he's lucky to be alive. But the whole thing that, I don't think about that when I think about Brock. I think about like his matches with The Undertaker and his matches with Kurt that were so good and crisp and clean. And when he, they put him over Hogan, they put him over The Rock, they put him over Austin. Not necessarily Austin, but everybody. He was just demolishing everybody, as he should have. They were positioning him. And
he's still drawing money to this day.
Absolutely. 20 years later, 22 years later. And I was there in Madison Square Garden his last night when he was flipping off the crowd and they were all mad. And you could read his lips. He didn't care, and I get it. He wasn't, they were moving on a little bit past him, and I get that. But, who's going to take the belt off of him? If he really wanted it, nobody could touch him.
No. Short of Kurt Angle. Like, that's about the only guy.
Well, Kurt probably couldn't now.
Or Kurt Hennig. Remember, Kurt Hennig took him down on an airplane. But
when I heard Mr. Perfect died, I was so upset. Mr. Perfect passing away February 10th, 2003. That just broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because they would be huge on the convention thing. They would be humongous.
Absolutely. Everybody be lining up. But, Kurt cared a lot about Brock, too, and cared a lot about making him the big star. And they worked together when Brock was coming in the company doing dark matches.
Yes.
He was putting Kurt over every night until he made his main roster debut, and then Kurt was putting him over.
Right.
So,
but Brock came in. When he came in, the first time he was on TV, and he walked out, all you saw was his traps.
Yeah.
Because he was so huge. And the first time he came out and jumped up on the ring apron, and then you could see him do some of the things he would do.
Yeah.
And then when you watched him in the UFC, he hit Heath Herring so hard, his face splattered, and then Heath Herring never fought again.
Nobody picked up mixed martial arts that quick.
No, Brock is a gifted athlete. I hate to say it. He's like Pat McAfee says, the alpha male of our species.
All right, Cedric, go on now.
I think that's freaking perfect. Yes, yeah. Carino Joe Smith had this comment there for you, Rusty.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
My number 7. So I can close that out. My number 7. I'd like to recognize the guys who were the guy of their generation or their era. And at number 7, I have John Cena. When it was needed for someone to just come in and put the company on their back, be the flag bearer, be the company man, be the face of be the franchise player. He stepped up to it and did that. So I definitely want to give him his kudos on that there, Joe.
Nice. Very cool.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
Number 6 for you.
All right, number 6. I might take a little heat from both of y'all for this because he's number 6 on my list, but I'm going to go ahead and throw him out there. The Macho Man Randy Savage.
Unbelievable, yeah.
But he has to be in my top 10 because godness, and I'll go more into it later. But for me, of course, we could talk all day about his first reign as WWF champion, but I liked him and Ric Flair working together too during his second reign, and I thought that was, for him to be 40 years old at that point and be trying to carry the WWF on his back, post his first retirement and everything. But Randy deserves his props. In an era where Hogan was the guy and everything. Macho Man could he did it. The first reign, he was a babyface when he won the title and a heel when he lost it. He's like, and he could do it all at both.
Right.
Yeah, you already beat me to my comment because you know Macho Man's on my list, so we would definitely revisit.
Macho Man was one of those talents that rivaled Hogan.
Yeah,
and
he's the only other guy to get over to that level during that time.
Yeah, and Savage was, you hear all the stories, all the dark side of the ring stuff. I like listening to stuff and I like seeing stuff, but then people start judging, and then they start looking. Oh, I can't look at his matches now because I think of that. I don't,
I'll watch Macho Man anytime I want.
So. I can watch Macho Man all day long. I loved him. And obviously I do the impression. I dressed up as him for Halloween.
I'm watching Macho Man after this podcast. I'm telling you.
He was a talent that, man, when he came in and he had that voice, and the voice thing, it's like Jake Roberts talks about and Arn Anderson. The way he talked made you listen closer.
Yeah.
Because of his voice. And that drew you in. Exactly. And, Savage was, and in the ring, he was impeccable. Now, you hear the stories, and I've talked to Rick Steamboat about, he planned it all out, and, and that's okay. That match at WrestleMania 3 and his matches with Diamond Dallas Page are legendary to me, and I love them. I watch all those as much as I can.
He's the one that turned DDP into a main eventer.
Yes.
So he made a lot of stars.
It was all in Nash and then Savage. Exactly. I mean, it was just that big springboard, all of them.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Like Macho Man is freaking larger than life, man. It's like to this day, folks do impressions, imitate them. I mean, you just gotta love it, right?
Right here, love it. Macho Man Randy Savage on the Bells and Bells podcast with Cedric CeeLo, Man Up, Joey Gray. I'm too hot to handle and too cold to hold, just like this podcast. If you want to learn about wrestling belts and the WWF and the Macho Man Randy Savage, unbelievable! Ooh yeah, dig it.
Yeah.
All right. On to your number 6, Rusty.
All right. I got a couple of things on here. I got a little slash. I got 2 guys. They main evented 2 WrestleManias together. The Rock and John Cena. Pure star power, both of them. Okay. The Rock is The Rock. Cena was Cena. Nobody took, in my opinion, both of those guys took so much hate and channeled it to a different direction. Because they, Rocky sucks and they hated Rocky and Cena sucks. But now you can't deny what they were. And, they both took the WWE to the next level. And, they're at the next level, which now makes all eyes go to wrestling because of them.
Very good.
More people see it.
Go.
Absolutely.
All right, Cedric, what you got?
Absolutely. All right, at number 6, I got the legend himself, man. The guy who freaking who held the belt freaking longer than freaking anybody, and I'm talking about Bruno Sammartino. That Bruno's the man in freaking New York, there, Joe. I mean, so
I want to start talking like Larry Zbyszko right now. Well. You remember when I beat Bruno? No, I'm not gonna. No, absolutely. He's on my list too, and I'll get to him in a little while. But
so I will go too in depth with it. But Bruno Sammartino, freaking eight years on the first reign, then he had another reign after that as well.
How many times did he sell out Madison Square Garden?
3,704.
Hey.
You're not going to get an argument from me.
Sure. hey. Rusty said it, damn it. I mean, it must be true, right?
And if you ever met him, Joe. I got to meet him in 2005. Nicest guy in the world.
You really?
Yeah, I met him in Wrestle Reunion too. I've even met Lou Thez, so I've got pictures with both.
Nice.
Yeah, it's to meet Bruno and to meet Lou.
That's amazing.
When I met Bruno, I was 29 when I met Lou. I met him with Reggie. And Reggie and Lou were pretty good friends. And then I met Bruno, and I can remember being in the bar in the hotel, and there's Bruno, Nick Bockwinkel, and Reggie Parks all sitting there. Reggie wanted to have a beer, and Reggie wouldn't drink in front of them. So it was really kind of cool to see those legends.
Just to clarify, Reggie
Parks.
Oh, okay. Just clarify for the audience.
You know, well, I think everybody knows when I mention Reggie. I think they know who I'm talking about.
You weren't talking about Reggie Be Fine?
Reggie Be Fine, you know, from Memphis, he was great.
I know that was the first person that was in Joey's mind was so we had to further clarify that, Rusty.
Oh, I get it. Okay, yeah.
All right. Very cool.
Okay. All right, Joey. I think we're at 5 now.
Yeah. All right. I'm my number 5 is probably on nobody's list, but to me, I love him because he humbled Bob Backlund. You put him in the camel clutch, and he quit. So don't argue about it. I'm talking about the Iron Sheik.
Sheiky baby.
Yeah. Sheiky baby, how you doing?
Yeah.
I get to the thing and I hold it up clubs.
I beat the jabroni Hulk Hogan.
You ever hear Hogan's story? Hulk Hogan
talking
about
lots of stories about Iron Sheik.
He get arrested and Sheik is taking pictures with the cops after getting busted with the drugs.
I believe it.
Sheik, that's not a good thing. That was another shooter.
Regardless,
that guy was.
I know he was a transitional champion, but I love Iron Sheik, man. I ain't gonna say nothing.
I do too. I think he's funny.
He's hilarious. And I mean, another legitimate guy, a guy that if he didn't want to drop that title, he wasn't gonna. So Iron Sheik was legit. He was a real badass, and
yep.
May not have been the greatest champion, but he's one of my favorites.
And I'm gonna say this: the belt looked good on him.
It did.
It did.
I love when he put it on at the beating Backlund. He had the belt upside down, but it's okay. It's still good.
Like DDP, the first time he won the title, holds it up upside down.
Exactly. Come on, man. But you ain't gonna say nothing to the Iron Sheik, so it's all right.
I know that. He ain't gonna humble me. I tell you that much.
I'd be surprised, even though he can't walk now. He might humble you.
That's true. I'm still not gonna test him.
No.
Exactly. All right, Rusty, we're at your number 5 there, man.
Number 5 for me, there's only one, man. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. I thought he had some great matches in his time as champion, whether it be a babyface or as a heel. His match with Ken Shamrock, man, that was brutal. His match against Mankind, Davey Boy Smith, Diesel, everybody that he wrestled. He always made look better than, probably they should have been. But, when he went in there, you knew you were going to work hard and have a good match and probably make more money the next time you went in there with him.
His probably best title match, in my opinion, is when he won the belt from Brett at the Iron Man match. So
I was going to get to that. Epic story, getting there, and the whole childhood dream thing, and it had Jose Lothario and all that. It was a good story towards the crowning of him.
In 1996, there weren't too many guys in the business that could go an hour and entertain you and keep you glued onto it the entire time with no pinfall submissions or anything during that hour.
I think Shawn was that guy. Brett could have been. I mean, Austin's always had a gas tank. He could have done it, but he wasn't there then.
Yeah, he wasn't at that level at 96.
He was in the strap match with Savio. Savio was another good worker. He
needed another year before he'd get his moment.
And so Shawn had a gas tank. Shawn always talks about like him and Kurt Angle. He's like, ooh, maybe I should have trained harder. But Shawn and Kurt, even when Shawn wasn't the champion, was really kind of cool. Shawn and Jericho, when Jericho was the champion, Shawn didn't need the belt. After a certain point, Shawn didn't need the title at all. And I know he turned it down a few times. When he won in the Elimination Chamber, that was a good feel-good moment. He had I think he had a couple of defenses on Raw, maybe. And then
that's the world title. That wasn't the WWE.
Well, yeah, but he still won the title, and it was that was right when they split. But I like that he came back and they gave him that. But when he was in his 2 reigns with the Winged Eagle there with Brett and God, I just wonder how much greater could that feud have been had they had both, especially Shawn, been in a different place.
Yeah,
because both of those guys were so good.
Yep. Well, all right, Cedric, what you got?
Yeah, And my number 5 is the other side of that WrestleMania 12 main event in the Iron Man match. My number 5 is Bret the Hitman Hart.
Where'd the picture go?
Yeah, I truly, I do. I really think they really could have did more with Shawn and Bret than what they did.
Oh yeah.
Like and a lot of them, like you said, if Shawn was truly in the right space, because Bret was just coming into his prime when he dropped that belt. So there was definitely more that they could have did with that.
I think Montreal could have been epic had they done that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, it's already epic.
Yeah. But regardless, we'll get to him again. Don't worry, he's on my list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know you're going to talk about it. So that's why I'm not going.
I'm not going to talk about him now, but I'll wait. But yes,
I know you're going to wait. All right. Carl is talking about Eddie Rey Mysterio. We're talking about WWF champions tonight, Carino.
Well, Eddie Guerrero, yes. Rey Mysterio, won it on Raw and then lost it the same night?
Yeah.
To John Cena?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's talking about that cruiserweight battles. We're not talking cruiserweight.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, but
exactly.
Not what we're talking about tonight. All right. We're on number 4 now?
Yeah, number 4.
Yep.
All right, my number 4 is the legend himself, Bruno Sammartino. I gotta give him another shout out here because it's hard to argue. You talk about different generations. That's why it's impossible to say who's the greatest of all time.
Right.
Because you got different generations, but during his time, again, when the NWA had heel champions, Bruno was that constant babyface draw. He did his job perfectly. Again, even without losing the championship, he made stars. He made, he knew how to. He's the guy. Like, he's the guy that just drew the house, and you genuinely had to appreciate him for everything he gave to the business.
It was a different time for the WWF back then, because they were regional. The NWA was the only world champion that really traveled to that extent. But Bruno filled everywhere from Baltimore all the way up to into Canada.
Baltimore, Boston.
So, he fell out all around. So
people related to him because he was an Italian American and the child of immigrants or
right.
And so it appealed to a lot of people, especially that New York market. And he knew how to sell tickets with everything he did. So, and he's great. He's just, underrated in the ring.
Exactly. And the thing about it now, while we talk about the nowadays, we talk about those in the attitude area, we talk about those in the 80s. I truly definitely with this platform that we have, I definitely do not want to miss those from the 70s and those territories times. And Rusty, I'm gonna lean on you once we start talking about the territories in that time frame for those who actually were able to watch it and who can talk this. This little teaser for y'all coming down the line from Bells. We gonna
talk Rusty back into coming in for that. So
I don't know. I don't know if I can be honest. I look so old in this thing. God,
that's what sells the whole territory angle.
Reaching formula thing.
No, don't do it. They believe you. You're like the wise old man now.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm just playing. But we're talking about the territories. You got to be a little old.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Exactly. So,
all right, number 4.
Number 4. Yeah, go for it.
That was my number 4. Rusty, your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay, so I have another one that's half and half. Bret the Hitman Hart and the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Very good.
Okay.
In all the interviews, if you listen to Bret talk, Macho Man always said Bret was going to be the guy to replace him, and Bret always said Shawn was going to be the guy to replace him. So it goes hand in hand with there's a Bret's book talks about they wanted to have a match. They wanted Bret to have a match with Savage. He was overseas, and they wanted him to get it over with real quick. And they went, Bret respected Randy and gave him a longer match and made him look right. And that's, that just shows what Bret was.
Yeah,
you know,
no doubt.
Bret had some great matches when he was first world champion against Shawn too. And, you know, Shawn was still climbing. He's still going up. So, you know, for Shawn to get, you know, none of us were there. So we don't know their whole story and their whole background, you know, even though some of us have been backstage and worked and done things, you know, me on a small scale, I know Joey's done some stuff, but, you know, you see things and you listen and you read. Watching Bret teach the way he wrestled, and that's what he did. When he would wrestle, you could see people learning if you look back and watch. And so
absolutely.
Okay.
Watching the match with the 1-2-3 Kid and with Shawn when Shawn was younger, when he was Intercontinental Champion, stuff like that. And you could see Bret.
Steve Austin at WrestleMania, the double turn right there where Steve Austin lost the match but got over the biggest he ever got in his career off a match.
Yeah,
you know, and that shows you Bret's mastery.
Yes.
Like
and I think that's all. A lot of that is on Bret. Bret.
100% it's on Bret.
Because Bret was one of those guys like Pat Patterson. He could visualize. Yeah. And, you know, that's what he was a master at.
Unbelievable. Yep. All right, Cedric.
Absolutely. Talking about masters, talk about getting the most out of folks, taking folks to the limit. Just a crass and of course I'm talking about Nature Ric Flair. Prior to his run in WWF, we know his runs as NWA champion was legendary. The real last NWA champion to do the territories, making all those towns. Once it was done with that, we know his time Jim Crockett Promotions. Then he went to WWF. Won the title in the Royal Rumble. That's definitely one of my favorite Rumbles of all time. Then went to go defend the title against one of my favorites, my favorite of all time, the Macho Man. So I got to give Flair his due.
He's my number 3. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. He's my number 3 as we roll into that. So yeah,
exactly.
We're talking favorites. You might not think he's the greatest WWF champion, but he brought that Ric Flair magic to the WWF. That's why he was able to go the whole damn Royal Rumble and win it when nobody else had the gas tank. Not many people had the gas tank for that in the WWF at the time, especially with a guy like Kurt Hennig on the shelf. Is about the only other guy besides like Bret himself that could have ran the course. But when you look back at the litany of 80s WWF superstars who were all jacked on the diesel farther than anybody, and they freaking blow up 3 seconds into the match, Flair took everybody's moves in that match and it sold for every single person up there. And then in typical Ric Flair fashion, won the way he won with dumping Sid out with Hogan pulling on him and stuff like that to win the whole thing and become the champion. It was magic. And it was finally, time to see Rick in the WWF, like doing his thing. And he didn't change a thing really. He was still Ric Flair and he still did Ric Flair stuff. He just had Bobby Heenan and Kurt Hennig with him, like instead of the Horsemen.
Rick was great. Rick was great. I look back at him, and Rick had to be the WWF champion. There was no question. Just like when Hogan went to WCW, he had to be the WCW champion.
Yeah.
When I look at Flair's run as WWF champion, I don't find it remarkable. He deserved to be, and I mean, he had that honor. I mean, he was that, and he got to be at WrestleMania, and he did. But like the NWA stuff is far more meaningful to me than the WWF run. So when I look at him, I don't look at him as like one of the top WWF champions, and that means no disrespect to Rick because he deserved the title. Right. It just was different.
Yeah.
I don't look at him like like some of the next guys we're going to talk, or even Bret and Shawn. He didn't have that longevity of a title reign really to have.
No, I think his second reign was supposed to be a little longer, but he ended up getting his bell rung pretty bad, and then they had to get the belt off of him because he was going home for a bit. Yeah. So, but for the matches he did, working with Randy at WrestleMania, and that storyline leading up to that was very good.
Oh yeah.
But he spent most of his time in the WWF without the belt, despite being a 2-time champion.
Right.
but again, as far as favorites go, he just like the moment sometimes. Yeah, and then winning that Royal Rumble was awesome.
Exactly. All right, Rusty, we had number 3 with you, sir.
Number 3 for me is Bruno Sammartino.
Hey,
Okay.
Bruno, one of the top draws ever in the history of WWF. One of the nicest guys, a classy guy. I don't think I've ever read anything or seen anything or heard anybody talk about anything negative about the man.
unless it's kayfabe,
right? Yeah,
like Larry Zbyszko.
Oh God. I can remember reading stories about that, about Zbyszko meeting him at a convention. You're like, nice to see you, Bruno. And then you meet Larry and you're like, that's hilarious. Now knowing it's really funny, but Bruno, nobody drew like Bruno back then.
Yeah.
And it was, you have your eras, Bruno, Superstar and Backlund, Hogan, it goes like that.
No, but I mean, and everybody wanted to work with him, because if you worked with Bruno on top there, you were going to lose. But the point is, when you went to the next territory, you were big business. You were going to make some money. You were probably going to walk in at the top.
Stan Hansen, there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's saying Bruno's the man.
Exactly. Okay.
Go ahead, Cedric.
Absolutely. Moving into number 3 again. Yeah, giving respect to those who were like the face of their freaking era, and without a doubt, the face of the Attitude Era was Stone Cold Steve Austin. The attitude. He finally won the belt from Shawn, but to be all honest, to be the face of the face, he really didn't need the belt because his whole attitude, his whole mantra, what was the Attitude Era. But he multiple time champion, but like we was saying earlier, Rusty, a lot, especially during that Attitude Era, they were flopping that championship so much you kind of lost track as to who freaking had it. So yeah, but definitely have to pay respect to the guy who really brought the crowds to the arenas. He talked them in, and he definitely one of the biggest draws ever in the business.
Oh yeah,
merchandise sellers too.
Oh yeah, I was at Monday Night Raw in Atlanta, the first one they ever had in Atlanta, and when Vince announced Austin coming out, I mean, I had never heard a roar like that. It was insane, and we were upper deck in the Georgia Dome, and I mean, it was just loud. And that night, Austin and Triple H got into it, and they beat the piss out of each other all over the concession stand. You could just see it. And knowing what you know now, you're like, man, those guys really went for it. And that's how you made your money. And they both guys played their role to a T. And much respect to both of them, obviously. But Stone Cold Steve Austin is Stone Cold Steve Austin, just like Bruno's Bruno and Rick is Rick.
Yeah,
exactly.
No doubt.
We're at 2, Joe.
All right, my number 2 is Superstar Billy Graham. He's my number 2, and just because the guy looked insane. He was the first wrestler I remember personally seeing that looked like something out of a freaking comic book. Those 21, 22-inch freakish arms he had. He's the only guy that put somebody in a bear hug, and I wasn't bored to tears. But he was. No, but Superstar Graham was ultra charismatic. Even his entrance into the ring used to just get under your skin as a fan. And he'd sit there while the wizard put his wristbands on him. He combed his hair. He just took his time. You'd sit there just wanting to kill him. And then let me give a shout out to that Texas death match with Dusty Rhodes, where they like to kill each other.
Oh yeah.
Another one, getting to work with people like Dusty when he was champion and draw big houses because of that, Superstar Graham. But again, we talked about his inspiration of the business. I mean, he inspired video game characters like Super Macho Man on freaking Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Everybody wanted to be Superstar Billy Graham.
5 years too early. 5 years too early. If he would have been, like I said earlier, if he would have been a little bit late, he would have been Hogan.
Well, Hollywood Hogan was Superstar Graham in the 90s.
Pretty much, Superstar Graham. Then he reinvented himself. He had his head shaved. He was the karate guy, and he had a couple of good runs in Florida and Mid Atlantic.
Came to that came back to Jim Crockett Promotions. I'll remember, but you could tell he just wasn't the same. No. It was great to see him, but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh man.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead with your number 2, Rusty.
Well, let me see. There's only one way to talk about my number 2 brother, Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
The Hulkster. There was nobody more over in the 80s than Hulk Hogan, and drew more money at that time than him. Yeah. When you're running 3 shows a night, and you want to be on the A show, but they're so popular that because of Hogan and the way they were pushing him, you're
making me laugh though because of Hogan saying he wrestled 400 and something days one year.
Oh, I know. He was the guy that brought it back into the mainstream.
Yeah.
My God, Andre had never lost before, and he body slammed him for the very first time ever.
I believe it.
There you go. But Hogan played his role to a T. Yeah. And that's what they needed then. They needed that superhero thing, and that's what Vince wanted. And Hogan did it. And, I thought Roddy Piper was the best foil for him, and then Andre was, and they kept feeding him people. Was. But the thing was, and when you have a babyface champion like that and you're feeding him all these bad guys and you just keep knocking them off, well, now don't they lose their badness if the good guy keeps winning?
Yeah.
So
especially when he's as big as he was.
So, look at Orndorff had to turn good. Studd had to turn good. Bundy was about the only guy that didn't turn good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very good.
Yeah, Hogan is my number 2 as well. I think I've said it on the show. My first memory was Hogan getting squashed by Bundy on Saturday Night's Main Event. That actually freaking hooked me to this thing called wrestling.
I was in high school when that happened.
Yeah, I was 8 years old, bro.
10th grade.
So it's like that first childhood memory, whatnot. 4 years, 4-year reign is initial one. Like you say, they fed him. He faced a little bit of everybody in that freaking reign. So
they've been talking about it here recently. What was the rating on the main event when Hogan lost the belt? I don't think it was like something stupid like 33 million people at that time or something crazy that was we
were joking, Chris.
It was tongue in cheek, Chris. We're not marks here. We're not marks here. It's okay. But the amount of viewing I was just listening to one of the podcasts the other day. It said something like a 16 rating or something stupid. At least I thought that's what they said.
Yeah,
but you'll never get that now.
Very good.
Oh no, definitely. All right, Joseph, we made it to 1. All right. I know who 1 is.
You know who my number 1 is?
I do.
You're right. It's Mick. No, I'm kidding. It's it is Bret the Hitman Hart, and that's to me I always like the wrestling. I always like the great technical wrestlers. And, it's hard to say. I laugh when people say who the greatest technical wrestlers are. They're from the modern era. Well, if you go back to the 70s and before, there were a hell of a lot of technical wrestlers.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
So, but Bret was a guy that really stood out during his time, and he brought me. I didn't watch a lot of WWF growing up. I watched a lot of Memphis wrestling. I watched a lot of Mid-Atlantic and WCW. It's turned into that. Jim Crockett. Watched a lot of that stuff. So what drew me and made me become more of a WWF fan was seeing Bret as a single, and then, of course, Bret as the champion. And it's like you said, when Bret got the title kind of handed to him all of a sudden, after losing the Intercontinental belt at Wembley Stadium, like a month and a half later, he's the WWF champion.
Yeah.
And, then, like you said, Shawn was just got, the Intercontinental belt, and they had to headline a Survivor Series without a lot of time to build themselves both up for that sort of thing. And they tore the house down. And Brett was that guy that, like, Vince saw something changing in the way, he knew they had the steroid trials. He knew he had to get away from the super muscle guys. And he knew, if he was going to go with a wrestler, obviously Kurt Hennig was too beat up, broken back, all that stuff. He needed somebody that could tote the belt and do it and draw crowds internationally. And Brett was that guy. He did a great job, unfortunately, having to follow the Hogan era and a time when the business kind of shit the bed a little bit over the steroid trials and stuff. But, it's 5 title raids. And I hear a lot of people say, including Sean Waltman, that unfortunately for Brett, a lot of times when he got the belt, it was because something didn't work out. And there's a good point to that. But, what can I say? I love Bret the Hitman Hart. He was one of the best things about the WWF to me.
I'm a big Bret fan. He brought legitimacy into wrestling, like you said about the wrestling.
That's why I'm going. Yeah.
And he made it believable. At WrestleMania 9 when he wrestled Yokozuna, I think that Vince was kind of trying to maybe think the Hogan thing was going to work again. And, it was a feel-good moment for the show, but it crapped on Bret, who'd been wrestling and working so hard. And so when he finally got the belt back, I was really happy, that a wrestler again, and not that I minded Hogan because Hogan, but you could tell Hogan was on that. It was Hulkamania was petering out. And I mean, everybody, if you were a wrestling fan, you cheered for Hulkamania when he won the title because we kind of still believed we were watching. We believed in the TV show, but you didn't realize that Bret really got screwed.
I don't know. I still thought it was a little bit of bull crap even when I was a kid. Like watching Bret lose the title and Hogan get it just minutes later. It's kind of like, really?
I looked at it as like, even though I was watching on paper, I'm like, at least another good guy got the belt away from the bad guy. And Hogan and Bret are friends. And, you don't know all the other stuff back then. Hogan losing the belt the way he did was so stupid. And
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was watching WrestleMania 9 at a friend's house, and I was looking at this and like, is this going to stand? Like I'm questioning, like there's no way this is going to stand. Damn sure it did. But definitely props to Bret Hart, the second Triple Crown champion in WWF history. Actually.
Yeah. He really is the first guy that clawed his way up from the bottom to be the champion, and had a successful tag team. Then was a great Intercontinental champion and had barn burner matches, including how many Intercontinental champions do you know that headlined a major pay-per-view in the main event over the WWF championship?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That was proof that it was Bret's time.
When he lost the belt the way he did to Hogan, at WrestleMania 9, the fact that he just kept going and he handled it like a pro, at least to us fans, he handled it like a professional, and it's called professional wrestling. You got to be a pro. You got to be a businessman, and I see a lot of people, I know Nick doesn't like Bret, and, a lot of guys don't like Bret. Bret was another guy like Bob Backlund, unassuming, and, but he could go and he could make the match believable, and he could, and they were fun. Just so, he wasn't the greatest thing. He got better as a talker, like in the 90s, but his in-ring work was impeccable, and he didn't make many mistakes. The matches were always good, and you bought what Bret did. So like when Bret beat Ric Flair,
you believed it.
I was happy, and of course you don't know all the other stuff till later on, but it was, you believed it because Bret was a wrestler.
Yeah, and you watched him scratch and claw from the bottom. So he was the first guy. He wasn't the poster child. He wasn't the biggest guy. He was a good sized guy, but he wasn't the biggest guy, so to watch him kind of come up and really earn it the way he did, I'm not shocked that he continued to be the major star that he was throughout his career. And what can you say,
every night?
Yeah.
He didn't do
the title more than anybody else.
The Young Bucks crap, and I like the Young Bucks. They're nice guys. I've met them numerous times. I'm not into that kind of garbage, but Bret could do stuff off the top, but he could do things, but you believed it.
Yeah. A great technical wrestler is a guy that could take a side headlock and make you entertained by it. A guy that could, when he put a guy in that Russian leg sweep, He had the right kind of snap and precision with it. That's where that name, Excellence of Execution, came from.
And the way he would
Every
snap
move,
over and just cover and, stuff like that.
That's technical wrestling. That's technical wrestling. He could take any move and make it believable, even the simplest move. When he threw a punch, you were going to sell it or he was going to tag you.
That's why I get off on a little tangent here with the
Yeah. Let's move on to your number one.
No, not that one. But Barry Windham is the guy that doesn't get enough recognition either.
Love
was
Barry.
An amazing worker and one of my favorites of all time. My number one is a guy that I patterned after. The greatest draw in the history of the business, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
All right.
The Rattlesnake.
Cool.
He was DTA, son. Don't trust anybody. And, if you watch that night after he wins the title from Shawn, that crowd is so insane. And for months leading up to that and for a couple of years at least after it, when that glass would hit, the crowd would just go off the chain. They were nuts. Yeah. Especially when he was feuding with Brett in 97 with the Hearts. I mean, it was – I hadn't seen responses like that in years and years and years.
We talked about the double turn at WrestleMania, the blood pouring out of his face. Like, golly, you can't there might not have ever been a match better than that in the WWF. Like as far as what it accomplished and the story it told, and then Austin losing the match but getting over to the highest level.
To be the toughest, the toughest son of a bitch in the WWF. I mean, that's just what he was, and that's what he was billed as. And that visual, the blood running down his face, and then Ken Shamrock being in the ring. I mean, all of that combined, and of course, I mean, I'll give it all to Brett, and Steve even talks about it.
Yeah.
It's Brett's mastery that does it. I mean, Steve's there too, and he's working it, but Brett is the one guiding the ship.
Well, like you said, Austin was more of the student in there, and that's where Austin learned how to get to that next level, to be a top guy, and what the kind of stuff you have to do. And it obviously it served him well.
And he was the last guy to hold the winged eagle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He threw it at Vince.
And speaking of the winged eagle, my number one is, of course, the Macho Man Randy Savage. I mean, of course, man, he's my all-time favorite wrestler ever. So of course, he's going to be my favorite WWF champion. Winning the title in an epic freaking tournament. At WrestleMania, four guys in one night. Night, held it for a year, and like Joey said, the first what was initially a babyface champion went into then changed in the course of the year, became a heel champion going into WrestleMania. So and freaking amazing, brother.
Well, he would have never been a heel if Hogan hadn't been out there hot dogging and grandstanding.
Well, and here's the thing: when Savage turned, I was not mad that Savage turned on Hogan. I was more mad that the belt hit the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. You could feel it coming. You feel it coming, and it wasn't going to be Hogan turning. But
that was a beautiful that was a beautiful storyline that started with a damn handshake.
They started the turn in Survivor Series with the look. And then it just progressed. And then Royal Rumble, they got in each other's face. And
I mean, even when Macho Man won the title, Hulk Hogan out there hot dogging and grandstanding out there in the damn ring.
Right there. It was there.
Yep, he sure was. He was
They did. They planted seeds they knew that was coming from the moment he won the belt. Come on. But and it was just, it was a great year in the history of the WWF, like Randy's first run. And like I said, I have to appreciate his second run too, just because Macho Man was still special at that time. I hate that. I feel like Rick and Randy should have been the proper main event at WrestleMania instead of, what was WrestleMania 8. Yeah, Sid and Hogan with that garbage finish. But come on, I know we went long.
We went very long, man.
It's all right, man. Yeah.
Y'all heard the bell. That means the time limit has expired on this show. But do not fret, y'all, because guess what? We're coming back next week with our monthly free for all. Hopefully, man, will be back with us, and we're gonna have Jason with us as well. We're gonna do our monthly free for all. We're gonna have a topic for you. But if you've been watching on YouTube, do us a favor. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And it helps us out a lot. Don't cost a thing. And you go ahead and hit that notification button so you know when the next time we're live. And Joey, what else can they do?
Well, we'd love it if you join our Facebook group at Bells and Belts Podcast on there, where you get to be a part of the creative team. We want your votes. We put up polls with asking you what you want to see, what kind of topics you want us to cover. And we love the input. Even if you just want to get on there and throw out a shout out or say like, hey, you guys are trash, I'll post it. I'll post. I'll take it. I'll accept it. But
that's funny.
No, we love it, and I'll tell you what. I think this may be the most participation on YouTube we've had yet. I'm really happy for Chris, Gianni, Mysterio Zone, Carla Joe. We had a lot of participation on Facebook and on YouTube this time, so we really want to say thank you for that. Again, if you haven't subscribed, like he said, please do.
Mysterio Zone is an OG, man. Mysterio Zone goes back to I'm talking 25 years.
Oh, nice.
I love it.
Javi's a good dude. I've known him a very long time. I sat with him for the main event at WrestleMania 20. He's just a class guy. And this one, Bottles, this one's for you, Bottles. You know who I'm talking about.
Hey, man, we appreciate each and every person that watched tonight. Thank you so much for the support.
Exactly. And Rusty, we appreciate you jumping on with us pretty much last minute and being and jumping in and definitely your insight is freaking amazing. We freaking love it. And you're definitely welcome back here at Bells and Bells.
Thank you very much. I've had a good time.
We already dropped the hints. We're going to be playing at a territory special, and Rusty's going to definitely get to come back for that. We need his insight for that. So
no pressure there.
We're going to get it on the schedule.
Yeah. And apparently Chris is calling us schmucks. So
appreciate that, Chris.
Baby.
Yeah. So for us schmucks here, who's going to go ahead and sign off, make sure you tune back here same time, same channel next week here on Bells and Bells. Until then, that's Joey, that's Rusty, and I'm Sid, and we're out.
Peace. I just love that you guys are schmucks thing is still up there.
We are.